Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Let's Play Hearts 4000 Week Reich. Let's continue on from where we last left off. So, I believe the past few episodes I was calling it the 1000-year Reich. Not the 1000-year Reich. It's a 1000-week Reich. And if you do 1,000 weeks from when the Germans took over in 1933, it does equal 1952. So, that's probably a little bit, foreshadowing, I guess you could say. So, the Polish conspiracy has been crushed. After a brief but in-depth investigation done by the SD, they reached a conclusion that the section of the Polish army within Warsaw was the one behind this coordinated attack. The key clue being the majority of the attacks were conducted by Polish troops. With the help of the Waffen-SS and the Europol, the Polish rebel stronghold within Warsaw was destroyed, leading to the execution of 59 Polish conspirators. The Fuhrer explained as the glorious victory of the just, saying the justice have served unto these subhumans. While the population and other party are now at ease, Ernst Kaltenbrunner detailed the possibility of high-ranking figures being co-conspirators, but halting the investigation as, for this moment, it might be safer. We get a little bit of war support, a little bit of political power. The Congo rebellion has been crushed. The Belgian Congo colony has always been in a semi-unruly state. When the Nazis invaded Low Countries, the Belgian government was forced to withdraw to its last possession in Africa. Ever since then, harsh minority rule has led to increasing tensions in the region, which has culminated in open rebellion led by the long-standing revolutionary groups in the east of the colony. Despite some initial successes during the early months, full Belgian authority to the Congo has now been fully restored, thanks to the extensive support from allied British forces. However, though the rebellion was subdued, the revolutionary organization still persists on the ground and will continue to fight Belgian minority rule. The support is growing from day to day. And that's the country that's capitulated. We're no longer getting the effects of Heroes Day. Shouldn't be a big deal. Your promise of peace, which is political power gain and war support. The question is, do I need war support? I guess that's like 61% stability right now. And we do know that Hitler can die, but that Hitler will die. So I'm assuming that's going to be a pretty big destabilizing effect on the economy. We'll go for military construction for you. Follow that up with... Well, you're like 3 years at a time, which takes a little bit too much. We can do some light aircraft. No, we cannot, because they're all too expensive. You know what? Let's go for the 1945 helicopters, because we might be able to use those in the future. The Fuhrer's 63rd birthday. Our Führer, Adolf Hitler, has been reached with the blessed age of 63 this day. All across Germany, flags are unfurled and photos of the Führer displayed, beginning a jubilation that every facet of German society can enjoy. Celebration and march in his honor, prepared in years in advance, is already being held in Nuremberg. Sacred ground of National Socialism is once again honored to have such an event performed on her soil. After the ceremony in Luftpoldrina, and the best of the best soldiers from every source of branch march across the street from Nuremberg, following the Führer himself atop of Volkswagen. The whole event ends with a solemn ceremony back to Leopoldina and a speech by the Führer himself. We're going to get 10 more stability. In the Fron Schickelschale, the Leni Riefenstahl masterpiece was finally released today. The film, widely applauded by critics inside Germania, tells the story of two sisters, Helen and Angel. Helen grows up to join the Hitler Jugend, while Angel worked in the bank. Angel later unknowingly married a Jewish man. When his husband's financial scheme collapsed, he became a drunkard, and Angel suffers from abuse that worsens every day, culminating in Angel becoming blind and sold into prostitution. Eventually, Helen in Hitler Jugend got a hold of her sister's condition. She managed to have her brother-in-law arrested during Kreuznach, just in time to stop him stabbing Angel with a knife. The film ends in Angel undergoing recovery, but Helen assures her sister that the future is bright for them. Screening across Germany is scheduled this evening, while in the East, the film is being released in the 20th of June, the rest of Europe on the 1st of July. A German masterpiece. And the reforms in question. The German state has been run the same way without much reform for years. Some of the party are urging us to revisit the old systems, improving laws, reforming power structures, and so on. However, the old guard and some close confidence around Hitler are opposed to the idea, leaving the decision entirely within the hands of the Führer himself. Let's allow the reforms. Follow that up. People are saying that we need to do these focuses, or else something really bad's going to happen. So let's focus with your Crimea. Rival colonists, Burgundy's inspection. Let's go with Himmler. And the reason we're going to go with Himmler is because in the New Order, he runs Burgundy, which is, like, insane. So we'll kind of see how he plays out his role in 1000-week Reich here. You have 104 political power. You might be able to do something with that. And Sadat declares Greater Syria. Anton Sadat, leader and dictator of the Axis-backed Middle Eastern regime in Syria, has declared that the dream of Greater Syria will be realized, including through force of arms if necessary. Boasting of the might of Syria's armed forces, he announced that the nation will not rest until its borders stretch across the whole Levant and the Fertile Crescent, uniting the region under one rule as he and the SNP have always intended. Although Sadat's regime has always been a threat taken seriously by neighboring countries, the sudden aggressive rhetoric is sure to cause alarm among the leaders of the various Arab and Middle Eastern states. It will have to be seen what the reaction will be. So you are claiming a lot of territory. Do you have a focus tree? You do, okay. So if you just want to enact everybody, if you're backed by us, then by all means take over the entirety of the Middle East, as long as you will support my future ideas. NSDAP reform. So we do have 100 political power. You just want us to upgrade research and production. It's kind of like meaningless, honestly. So let's do National Socialism for the youth. Follow that up with the branches. Yeah, do both of those, and we'll see how that kind of goes for us. We do need tungsten. We'll get that from the Portuguese. Never mind, I will not get. Do I know any factories? No. Right, okay. May Day. Once again, the holiday that empowered the proud Aryan workers has arrived. Leaders send their congratulations to workers all around Germany. Gatherings are held and workers are using this special holiday to get the rest that they deserve. A rest of work, even at the greater good of the Aryan race. You got +1 stability. I'm surprised that Germany would celebrate May Day. It doesn't seem like a thing that they would do, but maybe they did historically. I don't know. The May Day bloodbath. A nationwide protest that turned bloody in Japan. Students and worker right advocates clashed with police officers. Police stations were raided and two sides had major firefights in many urgent regions. In a state of panic, the government ordered the police to open fire on the protesters. These orders were carried out and shots were fired, with thousands of protesters and students wounded or killed, ending the riots for a moment, but leading to a major condemnation from internal and external oppositions. The Japanese government made it clear that it believes these actions are necessary to prevent a leftist takeover. And the Halivid Comet debuts. At London Heathrow Airport, a commercial airline accelerates along the runway, an increasingly common sight for taking off in its journey towards Johannesburg, South Africa. However, this flight is anything but an ordinary, as the familiar drone of propellers is replaced by the roar of jet engines. After a long and costly development and testing period, the British designed the Halivid Comet, and the world's first jet airliner has taken off its first commercial flight. Undoubtedly, this is a great achievement for Britain and helps propel its civilian aviation capacities into a new jet era, ahead of any other country, but competition will inevitably follow. Do we have that jet engines researched? I know this is for like the military, not necessarily for yeah, I believe we have jet engines. Fantastic. So, Iraq and Jordan have united. The two Hashemite kingdoms of Iraq and Jordan have finally agreed to terms on the unification into a United Arab Kingdom, also known as the Arabian Federation or Arab Union. The new confederation, despite being very loose and essentially leaving both countries with the same within itself, will unite the two nations on the world stage in terms of foreign policy and military affair. It will be hailed as both monarchs have moved toward Arab unity, as well as a move to defend both nations against outside threats that could come from rising powers within the Middle East, like Syria, or from powers attempting to exert their influence over the region from without. So, definitely they have united, mostly, I guess, to stop Syria, because they do actually own Lebanon as well. Do they always own Lebanon? I'm actually not too sure. The 1952 EFC. After months of preparations and careful planning, the European Football Cup of 1952 have started. The EFC was a plan proposed in 1950 by Joachim von Ribbentrop and Reich's Portführer Karl Ritter von Hult as a means to unite the continent. Sport, particularly football, has always been seen as a great political and nationalist tool for politicians and others, as they perpetrate and celebrate the old we against them mentality and highlights the athletic superiority of our race. These arguments help von Ribbentrop in securing an annual fund from the government, and its independence meant that the organization one of the largest football cups in the European continent since the 1920s. This year's EFC will be the first edition thus exciting many, while talks of corruption have spread across the NSLEPE, the National Socialist League of European for Physical Exercise. Itself, the positive energy rating from events is enough to silence these rumors for Spurt and for Germany. I did just say for Spurt and not for sport, but yeah, that's fine. Don't worry about it. Right. Everything is good for the Spurts. So you are the Confederational Districts. You are in the UN. Bose has been re-elected as the charismatic leader of the Indian National Congress. Bose's popularity has not faded despite his many events his time as Prime Minister. Riding on this wave of popularity, Subhas Chandra Bose has successfully mounted an effective election campaign, managed to secure landslide support for him within the INC and the nation at large. Re-elected to office, Bose's new term shall be one of reconstruction and ultimately reunification of India, drastically different outlook since his days of a revolutionary leader. The Egyptian revolutionaries crushed. After a failed revolution attempt by the Free Officers Corps and the anti-monarchist, the regional government has crushed the revolution with Italian support. While the fires of revolution might be extinguished, the revolutionary government of Egypt has escaped to Palestine and entrenched pan-Arab ideals into the minds of the Egyptian population. The Egyptian government is expected to face heavy resistance for the upcoming months. Because you got Italian influence, but you're not actually backed by the British or anything like that. I don't believe so anymore, at least. Health of the Fuhrer. During an early checkup, report showed that the Fuhrer's health is poor. Those doctors claim that there are signs of Fuhrer recovering from a stroke back in 1948. There are a few pages of the health report missing, but Martin Bormann, alongside the doctors, assured the Fuhrer that nothing is out of the norm. Yeah, that's fine. I'm sure the fact that there's just pages from your health report missing is not a big deal at all. The debate. With the allowance of the Fuhrer himself, the party will now decide on which direction Germany should head towards for the upcoming months. So 25% for military, 25% science, 25% industrial focus, and 25% chance that it's a failure. Well, probably Oh, failure! Fantastic. After the rest of the debates, the party still seems to be divided and unable to come to any meaningful collective agreement. No progress has been made. Thank you for helping me out in these dire times. Really meaningful. The Suez has been blocked to Italian ships. Days ago, a coup in Egypt had led it falling under Italian influence, with Italian troops entering the country. Now, the world waited expectantly for British response, and now it has arrived. In a statement today, Britain demands Italian withdrawal from Egypt, denouncing strongly the coup and moving in of Italian troops. The demands are backed by various threats and immediate response, consisting of different sanctions, and most significantly, the closing of the Suez Canal to all Italian shipping. As of this moment, all vessels flying the Italian flag or sailing from Italian ports can no longer use the Suez Canal. With a stalling response, the world looks to Rome again. Okay, so yeah, Egypt is still... Oh, they actually could. They are now a government of Italy, so we'll see... Yeah, so the British are very, very, very upset by this. I don't know if Italy and Britain can go to war over it. I assume the answer is no, at least not quite as early as this. We'll follow that up with Himmler's vision. Spain has won the EFC. The Spanish national team, the Selección Español de Fútbol, has won the 1952 European Football Cup after a long match against the Germans. Their attendance was seen as many as a sign of Spain's long reconstruction coming to an end, as the nation has continued to suffer the consequences of the 1936 conflict that kept it from playing in the 1938 World Cup. After several minutes of defensive play on Germany's part, Telmo Zarra was able to steal the ball from former Swiss player René Bardar, and with support of the Silverstone Agoa, Spain scored their first goal, and second goal would follow 20 minutes later. The Asturian Bosora would break through the German lines and score a goal against keeper Fritz Hickerath. The Spanish team was greeted by von Ribbentrop, but Hitler had left the stadium. Such a disappointment. So I think at this point we should just declare war on the Spanish for dare trying to fight against us in the game of football. Your research. We will go for just some of these infantry upgrades for right now. Seems pretty okay. And Reich has resigned. The protests that have been steadily building steam had reached a peak. Seeing as power over the nation army deteriorating, President Saint Reich was forced to resign. It was believed that he had left the country. Though he reeled under the pretense of American-style liberal democracy, his relatively short-lived regime was characterized by authoritarianism and suppression of political and civil rights. With the great president now gone and the sudden power vacuum it has created, there are hopes that some will find a true parliamentary democracy system, while others are pushing to drive the country to a more radical direction. So I'm assuming this is in Japan. I think at least. The Melee emergency. An insurgency that has already been rumbling for several years now has escalated. In Malaya, communist forces loyal to the Communist Party and its Malayan National Liberation Army, bolstered by communist Chinese exiles and Vietnamese volunteers in support, have expanded the guerrilla conflict against the British-controlled Malayan government into a full-blown rebellion, seizing swaths of territory in the thick jungle in the north of the country. The British and their allies in Malaya are rushing to respond to the rapid uprising, but should have the upper hand. Most believe the uprising will be put down sooner or later, but the scale shows possible weakness in the British authority and the territories around the world nonetheless. So it is you against you. You're not actually like a puppet state or anything. And who actually has more troops? 3 to 7, 3 to 9. So it's about pretty even. We'll kind of see how that goes, or if the British even get directly involved at all. And I have noticed that Egypt is still an Italian puppet state. They have not backed down from their coup. You're a member of the Mediterranean Pact. Do I have a little thing like that? I do. Member of the New Orden. The New Order, was never formed as an official faction. It serves as a term for Germany's direct sphere of influence, with partners which might be cooperating closely with the Nazi regime. The starting members of the New Orenburg were all German-controlled puppet governments, which their sole purpose was, within this unofficial faction, is to enrich metropolitan Germany with each subject's local nations. No clear winner in the UK. One of the most dramatic general elections of a generation is over and resulted in no party achieving overall control of the House of Commons. The Prime Minister made a gamble in calling a general election and appears to have backfired. Instead of winning back Labour's majority, Minister Attlee lost even more seats. In the next few weeks, Labour may be forced to make an alliance with minor parties such as Liberals, but others Conservatives could even be the one forming the next government with other parties. Mostly small but growing union movement may make things more difficult. Attlee's position may now be viewed as untenable after this disaster for his increasingly factional party. Now he must ask, is the British public ready for yet another coalition government? So, here's the Royal Navy. Head of state right now is the Queen, which is not a huge surprise. Very, very similar to what happened, was it the 2018 British election with Theresa May? Either way, it's very similar to that. China has denounced Vietnam. In a speech directly to the Generalizo Chiang Kai-shek, the KMT has announced communist-ruled Vietnam, blaming Vietnam for harboring and aiding Chinese communist traitors. Chiang vowed that the subversion would be punished by whatever force China could bring to bear should it continue, a clear threat of escalation and possibly war. It remains now how Vietnam will respond. We'll see if they do anything. Now, I'm going to assume that they're not going to back down, necessarily. Volkswagen is 1%. Highly industrial economy is 15%. When's worker condition finished? 50 more days? Overseas, yeah, we'll do you. I have enough political power for that. Fanta, the official soft drink of Germany. During the German-Soviet War, Deutschland had problems finding supplies to produce certain civilian items like soft drinks. Thus, through brilliant research, the all-German soft drink was created just out of the ingredients like wheat and apple pomace. The name Fanta came from a brainstorming session where the research team were asked by the head of the Coca-Cola Deutschland to use their fantasy or imagination. One of the researchers, Joe Kipp, immediately replied, Fanta. The drink was a major success and became part of the German identity. After the war, it became the most popular drink in Germany and thus been declared the national soft drink of the German Reich. Fanta is better than cola, plus 10. A great little bit of lore there. So the all-around free streak has capitulated, which is unfortunate because that was the side that we would have wanted to win. We definitely don't want the communists to win the war in Algeria. But if they win, there maybe is a chance we can maybe intervene and just invade them ourselves. Because I can't send you volunteers, right? No, unfortunately not. The left wins in Korea. With fresh elections held since the resignation of Seung-Jan-Rhee, okay, that was in Korea, not in Japan was the last event. A broad coalition of left-wing parties have won the vote in Korea, being the more moderate conservatives and liberals running against them. Oppressed by the old regime, socialists of all kinds, from anarchists to moderate socialists to nationalist communists, band together to win power in the election. To the threat of the new government from reactionary forces is great, but if it is not overthrown, a new battle will begin among the left wing as to the direction the country will take. And Himmler's vision. Hitler trusts Himmler deeply. It is only reasonable that our Fuhrer would put even more trust in Himmler than any other man. Besides, Himmler might just be the person to solve the problems of the SS in fighting once and for all. So then we go for overseeing Burgundy regions. So, Himmler. I would really appreciate if you don't take Burgundy and form your own independent country that wants to nuke the entire planet. Just a So just a word of advice there for which direction I believe you guys should take in the future. The PPS elected. Having shocked essentially the entire world, the PPS, or the Mexican Socialist Party, has won the most recent electoral race. The party stands in stark opposition to both the PRI and the PAN parties of mainstream Mexican politics. Its victory is being largely attributed to anti-American sentiments and anger at the perceived sluggishness of the Mexican political establishment. Only time will tell if the party can do good on its premise to bring socialism to Mexico. Socialist Mexico, who could conceive of such a thing? I would really like my factories, though, so I can import some resources. It's like another month until this is ready. A space project planned. A project that started in 1948, von Braun and his teams of scientists, taking a break from the military rocket program, has successfully created a prototype manned suborbital spacecraft that will be the first of its kind in the world. The rocket is a simple ballistic missile, which has been modified to carry a life support system and a pilot instead of an explosive payload. It is planned on performing a single suborbital hop upwards to the altitude of over 100 kilometers before falling back down and landing safely. While not all safety precautions are ready for the flight, and the deadline and requirement for the government funding is to launch a manned test as soon as possible, fearing funding cuts and personal safety, the launch will occur within the coming days. What could possibly go wrong? I'm going to go and say that's probably a little bit of foreshadowing. I don't think I want to do this. That seems kind of like garbage. But I think that at least for right now, this is going to be a good time for us to end this episode. So thanks to everybody for watching. My name is Vance. If you enjoyed, give it a thumbs up. Not enjoying, throw a thumb down. You want us to subscribe, and goodbye.